Hey guys, I'm DJ and welcome to another episode on NAD Media TV. As you all know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month and mental health matters. Now, we're about many things on this platform, and that includes mental health wellness as well as empowering our youth. And who better to shine that light on all of that than the queen of empowerment and mental health advocate herself, Tiyanna Washington. Thank you so much, Tiyanna, for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So another intro, Tiyanna Washington is a New York City-based licensed social worker and founder of T Speaks NYC, which is an agency committed to bringing mental health, wellness, awareness, education, and programming for young women and teenage girls. So we're gonna dive into all of that, but I have to ask you, tell us a little bit more really about T Speaks NYC.
So T Speaks NYC is really a mental health and wellness agency dedicated to bringing mental health and wellness conversations for teen girls, in particular for Black teen girls. For a very long time, I was working in a lot of predominantly white spaces, and I was privy to a lot of the mental health resources that were available in those communities. But as my work transitioned into Black and Brown communities, I realized that there was really a lack of access to quality therapists, affordable mental health care, and I couldn't, not that I didn't understand why, but wanted to do something about it, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always had a very strong affinity for working with young teen girls. And so I said, let me take a leap of faith and start a company that can really help to bridge that gap, to bring them those mental health resources, but in a way that made sense for them, in a way that kind of spoke the language that they spoke, and in a way that they could understand what they were experiencing and what they were going through.
Right. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. Like, what was the moment where you decided, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start this agency? Was it an easy, quick decision? Did it take time? How was that process?
I wish I could lie to you and say it was easy. It wasn't, only because, I'll be honest, imposter syndrome is real. Mm-hmm. And even being in this field, I've been a social worker now going on over 10 years, right? But even having that experience, sometimes you still have that doubt that creeps in. Am I good enough? Is anyone going to care about this message of youth mental health? We've made a lot of gains around the conversations as it pertains to mental health, but if we're being honest, it's still very taboo. And there was a part of me that wondered, will anyone care? But I had a moment where I was like, you know what? Even if no one cares about the message that I have around youth mental health, there are teens that need to hear this message, and they are the ones that matter. It's important for me to get my message across to them. And I remember I woke up one night or morning, it had to be like 2:30 in the morning. I called my mom, because I call my mama for everything. I was like, Mom, she's like, everything okay? I said, I think I'm gonna do it. She's like, do what, child? And I said, I'll tell you in the morning. And it was that morning, fall of 2019, a few months before the pandemic, I filed my LLC. And thankfully, I already had so many great connections with like community-based organizations that I had done work with before. And I took the leap of faith and did it. Filed it in September 2019, had my first anti-bullying summit in December that sold out, and it's just kind of taken off since then.
That is amazing. It just skyrocketed from there.
It did.
I love to hear that. Because, you know, we always hear those stories about, and this is why your story in particular is so inspiring, because, you know, it's not easy to start a business, and especially in a topic that is not talked enough about. And you mentioned it earlier, youth mental health matters. Like, mental health always matters, but particularly youth, we don't really talk about that part. Why, in your words, why do you feel like it needs to be spoken about more, and how important is it to talk about it?
I mean, youth are the foundation for our society in a sense, right? And I always say, for every broken adult that you see, for every adult that you come across that struggles with relating to others or managing their own stress or having anxiety and depression, most times than not, it didn't just start in adulthood, right? We know a lot of adult mental health diagnoses the onset was really in adolescence, around age 13 or 14, right? So for me, it kind of became like, okay, if I can reach them while they're still young, while they are still kind of moldable in a sense, and give them the information that they need, give them the resources and the tools to know how to navigate stress, how to navigate and battle negative thoughts that they might be facing, how to counter cultural stereotypes that plague our community. If I can give them those tools and resources, it can help them later on in adulthood. I can't tell you how many of my adult friends, women that I come across with, parents that come to me for consultation who have depression, who have anxiety, who have ADHD, and after going through their own therapy or therapeutic process, come to find out that the symptoms they have today actually started when they were younger, but they were just never addressed.
Right.
When they were younger, they experienced that irritation and the irritability and the anger, but they were just classified as the angry black girl, or the irritable black girl, or, oh, she's just difficult to be around, right? When in actuality, she was navigating mental health struggles that no one cared to pay attention to. And now as a young woman or as an adult, those things have kind of come to a head. And now we see a lot of the symptoms that we do see now in our Black community, particularly amongst Black women. So to answer your question, it starts with the youth.
Right.
If we give them the knowledge and tools that they need right now, we can help to really create generations of healing in our communities.
That's right. Yeah, you said it perfectly. And it's like, I feel for young women and teenage girls, adolescence, we all know, is the most vulnerable time in like the kids' lives and stuff.
Yes,
and
it is.
They always say it's like, it's always tricky. And, you know, even as parents, from what I hear anyway, raising adolescents, you know, how do you get teenage women, teenage girls to open up? Because most of them really are reluctant to open up about what they're feeling. Sometimes they don't even know what they're feeling or how to communicate that. So what in your agency, what programs do you have that helps them open up?
So the biggest thing, I would say the first starting point is asking ourselves, why are teens so reluctant to speak up? Why are they so hesitant to speak up to us as adults who have all the knowledge and information? And a lot of times, at least in my own practice and the workshops and programs that I run, the consistent feedback that I get from my teens is that adults don't care. They think that we're being overly dramatic. We feel judged. Our thoughts and experiences are invalidated. And so if I feel that way, why would I open up to you, right? Trust has to be earned. And I think sometimes as adults, we forget that when it comes to our teens. So for me, when I do my public speaking and I do workshops and programming, I come in and I'm very transparent around the difficulties that are there with discussing mental health. I'm very transparent about that, and that I'm a stranger and you don't know me and I don't know you, but I want you to know that this is a safe space for you, that your thoughts, that your emotions, your opinions, they matter. And DJ, I kid you not, sometimes even just saying those words, you can literally hear the exhale in the room, because a lot of adults are not having those conversations with teens. I'm also very transparent about affirming their cultural identity and being a proud Black woman myself. I share my experiences growing up being a darker skinned woman and the bullying that I experienced and the effect that it had on me. I'm very transparent with them about that, because oftentimes what our teens are missing from the conversation are our own mental health struggles that we may have had and how we overcame and how we're still navigating. So for them hearing that, the honesty, they respect it. They respect it so much, and they love it because they crave it. Because guess what? And I tell my parents this all the time, in the absence of not being able to speak to you, they're going to their friends and they're going to social media. And you have to think, for a 14-year-old, 15-year-old going to another teen, how much help are they really gonna help each other, right? But they do so because they feel understood by their peer.
Right.
So if you can translate that into a parent-child relationship or a speaker audience member relationship, it creates a world of difference. And not to toot my own horn, but if you've never experienced a T Speaks NYC workshop, it's an energy. It's an experience in itself. It's something that you just have to kind of be there. They leave feeling proud. They leave feeling like, I got this. Like, life is difficult, but I can do this. Because you know what? Miss T believes in me and she sees something in me. That warms my heart so much. And I try my best to translate that experience into all of my workshops that I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, like, what makes your workshop stand out from maybe other workshops that are trying to do something similar?
Honestly, I think it's the energy factor. It's the transparency factor.
Right.
It's something that you can't bottle up and you can't really describe. Teens, what they say to me after is, no one has ever broken it down like that to me before. Or you just find a way to make it make sense. I love the way you talk to us and not at us. You ask us questions. You're curious about our feedback. A lot of times when program directors reach out to me and they'll say, we have a group of teens that's struggling with X, Y, and Z, whether it's self-esteem or bullying or whatever, I ask them, have you asked your teens what they need help with? Because when I come in, that's important to me. What do you need from me? When you leave this space today, what do you need to feel heard and supported? What do you need so that this doesn't feel like just a 45-minute workshop, but more of a lifetime experience? Because a year from now, 5 years from now, I want you to remember that workshop you did with Miss T and how much she told you were beautiful and that you matter. I want that to stay with you. And it's just a passion that I give to them because this runs through my blood. I could do this work in my sleep without thinking about it, right? So when I show up, I show out.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I feel the passion, and that's something that's like so admirable too, because people see that when you're passionate about something, it really does make a difference. You're not just doing it because it's like, okay, just another day's work. No, it's not even work. It's like, no, I'm passionate about this. I'm for real about this. And I feel like that translates through what you do for the youth and the community. And I'm pretty sure that's something that the girls appreciate too. Like, I appreciate you. Like, I'm feeding off your energy. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Preach, preach, preach. So we spoke about this, or you mentioned it earlier, because I want to dive into the community, the Black community itself. You know, obviously most of us know, and for some that don't know, you know, mental health awareness and wellness isn't spoken enough about in the Black community. And unfortunately, there are households, in particular in Caribbean households, because I'm Caribbean myself and stuff, growing up in a Caribbean household, you too as well.
Same.
You know, they don't understand the whole concept of just mental health and checking in, wellness check or anything like that. If somebody is going through something, or kids in the household or something, or anybody, even adults, they see it as some sort of like personal weakness or defect or something. And those are the stigmas that I feel like, you know, we're constantly battling. So I guess in your words, your opinion, your thoughts, how do you tackle those stigmas?
It's tough because there are generations of mindsets that are embedded with the idea of be the strong one. As you are experiencing something, we don't speak about it, right? We resolve it on our own. And I think there's a lot of systemic history behind it, dating back to slavery. You had to be the strong one, because if not, what could happen to you could be detrimental. And we were taught from a very young age to pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. So when I'm working in communities and I have families and their children in front of me, it's important for me to acknowledge both experiences of the different generations, right? And I'm very transparent with my families and my parents in saying, I understand what you are saying, and that your experiences are your experiences. And there's a certain resilience that is there within the Black community, right? But also in the same way that you've had your experiences, your teen has their experiences as well. And there's this parallel experience that happens where I might not understand what you're going through, and you might not understand what I'm going through, but we're going through something. And it makes us stronger if we acknowledge that and embrace vulnerability. In our community, sometimes vulnerability is seen as a weakness, but it's really not. And being vulnerable, we're learning from each other. I'm learning what's helping you to navigate this difficult situation that you're in. It's in vulnerability that we're really learning together what this thing is called mental health, right? We don't talk about these things. We keep it hush hush, or we pray about it. Right. But sometimes that's not enough. And that's the messaging that I try to get across when I'm talking with my families and when I'm talking with my teens. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about things that you're experiencing as an adult, because guess what? Your teen appreciates that. Sometimes we present as having it all together. We were talking about this earlier. We present as having it all together, and teens sometimes can't relate to that as they're navigating their own mental health struggles. So if as an adult in your life, if I say to you, actually, son, I had a tough day today, and this is what gave me a hard time, and this is what I'm going to do to try to help myself feel better in the process. This is my coping skill, or this is my self-care. Now we're normalizing the conversation. Right. Now we're normalizing what it means to not be okay. Now we're normalizing what it means to practice self-care, to have coping skills. So increasing those conversations in the home and in our community, I think is gonna help to shift the dynamic between, you gotta keep a hush hush, let's not talk about it, to actually, I can tell you about this, and maybe I could share a little bit about that.
Right, exactly. And for you personally, as a mom, you're a mom of a 2-year-old boy.
Yes,
it's just so cute.
My little munchkin.
Right? We were talking about it earlier, like you mentioned, you know, doing it all. And I find it another thing that's so admirable is how you just keep it all going, running this business and also raising a 2-year-old. So in your experience personally running this agency, and do you feel like your experience has in effect contributed to, I mean, I guess kind of like how to be like a mother to your 2-year-old? Like especially when he grows up, especially when he reaches those like vital years of adolescence.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Do you think about that sometimes?
I do. And it's so funny you asked that. It's actually something I think about often.
Right.
And it's an interesting experience happening because my work is predominantly working with teen girls. And here I am raising this young Black boy, right? And studies show as early as age 3, age 4, children are aware of skin color, right? As early as age 5, they're learning differences between white versus Black. A lot of times we've seen studies where Black is not the preferred doll or person to play with, right? So I think about these things, and it's important for me to instill in him Black pride, that he is very well versed in Black culture. I'm Caribbean American, my parents are from Jamaica, my husband is Southern, and I want him to know both paradigms. I want him to know both experiences. I never want him to navigate this world not knowing who he is, and I want him to do so in a way that honors his identity, that honors his own mental health. I want him to always be in a space where he knows he can come to me, that he can come to Dad and never feel ashamed and not feel judged. And I know it won't always be easy because I'm working with the adolescent population now, right? So I'm seeing all the things that they navigate, and in my mind I'm like, wow, how am I gonna tackle this as a parent? Because therapist hat is very different from parent hat, right? Let's be honest. And I see him, and those are the things that are running through my mind often. So even now, a lot of the literature that we read at home, his books, are about being a strong Black boy and being smart and affirming that for him. We wake up and we do affirmations. I do affirmations with my teen girls, and I go home and I do them with my son. I am strong. And he's not yet speaking. He's like, strong, muscle. I'm like, yes, Papa, you got muscles. So to answer your question, doing the work of adolescent mental health, absolutely translates into my home and like being a mom. And I can't wait to see his own journey. So 3-5 years from now, let's revisit this combo.
Right.
I'll be like, DJ girl, I'm getting more gray hairs than I know what to do with.
You come back with all these gray hairs like 5 years later.
Like, run that interview back. What I say about affirming?
We do a side-by-side comparison.
I need some affirming myself.
I love that. No, that's really interesting, because obviously I'm not a mom, but I'm always interested in like how something like this like does translate into like, you know, your personal life as a mom and everything.
Yeah.
So with running your workshops and running your agency and just interacting with the youth, and was there ever a moment, or probably more moments, that were very challenging for you?
Yes, there have been a few. One stands out in particular. It was a workshop around self-esteem building. And I always open my workshops with some type of engaging icebreaker. And I think it was, give me a pose or a facial expression to describe your past year and what that year has been like for you. So the teens typically will give me different poses and different facial expressions. And there was one teen in particular, I'll never forget. She was not as engaged as the other girls were. She kind of stayed off to the side. She wasn't participating in the icebreaker. And you always kind of make a mental note of those students when you are doing these workshops. Right. Long story short, the workshop was about 45 minutes, and she kind of stayed to herself the entire time. And a lot of the conversation was around stressors in our life, how we deal with stressors, how we navigate those stressors, what that looks like for us. And a lot of their feedback was around bullying. A lot of them were experiencing bullying. They talked about cyberbullying, and that it kind of is like following them home, because a lot of them are online, so it no longer just stays at school. That was a big thing for them. And also a lot of racial conversations as well, in terms of racism in their schools. A lot of the girls were saying that they were treated more harshly than their white counterparts when they were doing the same, if not lesser, behaviors. And that's something that comes up a lot in our work as well, the adultification of Black girls, where they're being suspended or given detention when in actuality they're experiencing a mental health struggle, right? So in the workshop, at the end, I go up to the girl and I'm like, you know, how was the experience for you? I noticed you were kind of to the side a bit. And she said to me, it was a little bit too much for me, and I chose to kind of sit on the side. So now we're in conversation, and I said, if it's okay, you know, what felt like too much for you? And she said, when you asked us how we deal with our stressors, I don't deal with my stressors. And how I deal with it is by cutting, right? And she kind of like lifted up her sweater so I could see her wrist. And that moment for me really captured the importance of having those conversations, because the parent that brought her in was not aware that her daughter had been cutting herself. And so now we're having conversation around, you know, I start every workshop with confidentiality and letting them know if you're in harm. If I feel like you are in harm, I do have to tell your parents. I'm not telling on you, but I'll be with you, right? Because we do need to get you the help that you need. So we started to have that conversation, and she's crying. She's hysterical because she was afraid of what her mom would say. She was so afraid of disappointing her mother. Long story short, brought mom in, and it was a really tough moment seeing the both of them have this moment together, because for the first time in a long time, what they said to me was, we saw each other. Mom, and to her credit, was a working mom. She was a single mom. She's holding down her household. But here it is, her baby girl, who's only 13, was struggling with cutting herself late at night, and she had no idea. So we were able to get them the resources that they needed, but that in itself was challenging for me. It happened very early in my workshop experience as a facilitator, but it was just a testament to me that when you have the privilege of speaking in front of young people, you never know what they are going through, the demons that they carry with them. Yeah. And a lot of times they carry it with them silently. They have the burden of these backpacks that they carry, and the adults in their life sometimes have no idea. So it is not lost on me the weight of doing this work and having the privilege of speaking to people's children and pouring into them, because it's a healing experience for them that might happen in just that 30, 45 minutes of their lives, but it's important and it matters and it's needed.
Right. Wow, that is deep. That's,
yeah.
I can't even imagine like just going through that. Like, kudos to you, honestly, because that's.
Imagine the parent, right? Imagine taking your child to a self-esteem workshop and being called in to find out that your daughter is struggling with self-harm, right? Yeah. But then how many more of those stories are out there that we don't hear about, that we don't know about? And that's why I encourage my parents so much to just listen and ask. When I do my family sessions, we use this, I use a 3-letter acronym called the LAP. I said, do a LAP with your child, LAP. Listen, ask, and proceed. Listen just to listen, right? Hear what they're saying. Ask them what they need from you. Ask, how can I support you in this moment? And be honest if you don't know how to support them. You can say that, but let them know that you are there for them. Be mindful of your facial expressions, right? How you respond to a story that they're sharing. And it's okay if you feel like, oh, we've been here before, we've been here again. How many times have we messed up in adolescence, right? Remember what it was like being a teen. Listen, ask, and proceed. Because if you really listen to someone, listen without reacting, listen without feeling like you have to take action. Just listen, ask, then you'll know how to proceed. And I coach my families through that in sessions. And it makes such a world of difference, because sometimes my teens will say, my mom don't listen to me, or my dad doesn't listen to me, or when I try to talk to them, they already have their response lined up of what to say, or they're disappointed that I'm in the same situation when I just need help navigating this friendship circle that I really want to be in, and I know I shouldn't be in it, but they're the cool group and I want to be part of. Like, there's so many dynamics and nuances to being a teen. And I encourage my parents and my families, my caregivers, to just remember what it was like being a teenager. Today is a very different time, very different time.
Yeah, you mentioned it perfectly, because I was literally going to say, I feel like a lot of these parents don't do enough of listening. They feel like the way to help their child is to do more lecturing, or just saying like, oh no, this isn't the way that, like, it's like you said it perfectly. They do have to listen.
They have to listen.
And aside from the challenges, what has been the most rewarding experience for you in these workshops and running this agency?
Having young girls come up to me after to tell me that they see themselves in me, that they have their own experiences with bullying, and being unsure how they were going to navigate or make it out on the other side, but seeing me do the work that I do inspires them. And that in itself is just an amazing feeling for me to hear, because I remember being their age, wishing I had someone to look up to that was doing this work and not really having that. So giving young girls something or someone to believe in, someone who can help to navigate their mental health struggles, that is so important to me. And when they're able to voice it and articulate it, and maybe sometimes they can't articulate it, but you know, you lock eyes with someone, you're like, I see you, I know you take it. You can feel it, you can feel it. That feeling in itself is everything to me. Sometimes they reach out on social media, or they'll email me just to be like, hey, Miss T, I don't know if you remember me, but I attended your workshop, and I just wanted you to know I'm using your self-care plan. It's been helping me navigate my freshman year in college. Some of these girls I worked with in high school. that I can't tell you how good that feels. And if I could bottle that feeling up and just take, I would retire today. I would retire today. Yeah. But that is what feels good to me, is to let, knowing that I've helped a Black girl feel seen and feel heard, and to know that she matters and that she is important and that someone cares. That is what makes me want to do this work every day.
Queen, I see you. I love that. And honestly, you're doing so amazing. We are so inspired. That's obviously why we just had to talk to you so you can share your story, because you have an amazing story to tell. With all the things that you have going on, that you've accomplished, what's next for you?
Expansion, more help.
Right.
Because I am a one-woman show. I am the therapist, I am the public speaker, I am the workshop facilitator, I am the tax person, I am all these things. And I'm at a point now in the business where I'm at capacity. I can't see as many teen girls as I would like to, and I'm talking about on my one-on-one work, just because I'm physically at capacity. So I think 24 is a year of expansion. Having some therapists come on board to join the agency to help impact even more girls. I have a set of wellness worksheets on my website for teen girls. We'll be expanding that as well to include just some other mental health topics that I've been seeing come up for them, and reaching out to more organizations, really just getting the word out there more about youth mental health, in particular for young teen girls. That is the vision for 24 and the years to come.
And we cannot wait for it. I'm so happy that you were here and happy that we got to spoke.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tiyanna. You guys heard it here. And honestly, let the audience know where they can follow you, where they can find you, so they can support all that you do.
Yes, so firstly, thank you for having me. We talked about this earlier, the importance of having platforms like yours to really spread the message about this work. If we're being honest, mental health is not the sexy topic to speak about, but it's important and it matters. So thank you 1,000 times for having me. For folks at home, you can find me on Instagram at TSpeaksNYC, TSpeaksNYC. That is my website handle as well, www.tspeaksnyc.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, Tiyanna Washington. That's TIYANNA. And don't be shy, connect. We're friendly over here.
Oh yeah, we are family at this point. Thank you so much, girl.
Yes. Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you stick around for our next episode on Mad Media TV. And there you have it. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of Mad Media TV.